Everybody, welcome in. This is Apex Piano. I have Joe Bovy today, and we're going to do a quick sound check. This is a live stream about growing your business. We're going to talk about the Apex framework and just watching to see this thing go live here. As soon as this goes live, I'm going to check our audio. Looks like we are live. All right, I'm going to check this audio. There it is. All right, Joe, go ahead and tell me something.
Hello. It's good to be here. Hopefully this all works.
Yeah, it's like a weird delay in here, but that's fine. We'll give people a few minutes.
Yeah. Indeed.
This is...
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, it's working. It's good. Yeah.
Oh, good.
I think we got it. Let's see. My eyes are slightly blurry now. They used to not be, you know. So.
Oh, man.
All right. Yeah, yep. I'm doing a sound check, but now we're not talking. So we got.
Oh gosh. Oh man.
I did a couple interviews where I got to the end. It's like my mic was so soft, it drives me crazy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You know,
I wish these platforms would give me like a way easier way to do a sound check.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I used to do some tracking for my church, and you know, I get done with it and I'd listen back. I'm like, man, I just did that whole track and the gain was just so low. I can't even hear anything. So I have to redo it again. So it's tough.
Well, I think it's good for now. I can edit this, and I'll be able to download everything. Guys, if you're in the live stream, you want to chat to us, you can chat to us on YouTube or Facebook. If you are after this, if you're in the replay, if you're in Bolster, you can just chat to the Bolster. And next week, I didn't ask Joe if he's available, but we're going to try to do a live hangout next week on this same topic. So today you can just pop your questions in the chat, and I'm going to text one student because there's one guy that is he's really just got his thing launched, and he's up there in Canada. You know?
Oh.
Okay, so I'm going to send this guy. I'm telling him we're live because I want him to be here.
Yeah.
On YouTube. So I'm sending him a link, and then I'm actually going to share this link with him so he can have it, and then you guys can have it. This is, interestingly enough, I might share that link in Bolster. So, all right, so this is Joe Bovy, and this webinar is all about how to grow your business from the ground up in the beginning. Now, a lot of you guys are starting, and so maybe you have 0 clients, or you've had 5 clients or 10 clients. I'm going to focus this front part on sort of like the first couple months when you launch, and I'm with you guys doing this, so I see a lot of you guys do it. And some of you have launched your business, and then you're like, a month goes by, you're like, man, I got like 1 call or something, and so you have to kind of go back and go, well, it's more than just one thing. You have to do more than one thing. If you do one thing, you might get 1 call. If you do 10 things, you might get 10 calls. But then that kind of adds up. And my first tuning, I just walked up to a pastor at a church. I said, your piano sounds out of tune, and I'm a piano tuner. He says, oh, great. You want to tune my piano this week. And I got my first job just by doing that one thing. And then when I built my websites, you'll know if you go through Catalyst Marketing, I built not just one website, but like 10 websites. I built I had I think it was called Springboro Piano Services. I had pianotuningdayton.com. I had pianotunerdaytonohio.com. I mean, I just built a bunch of little micro sites, and I talk about that in Catalyst. So anymore, I'm not sure that is necessarily, is that necessary? So now you can build one big site, and maybe you can do like social media and other things like that. But I kind of flooded the Google algorithm with a bunch of little websites and blogs. And so I had a blog on Blogger, I had a blog on WordPress, I had a website on WordPress, I had 4 or 5 other websites. And then I went to all of these places and listed my business in like any website that I could list my business in, like local businesses and things like that. I didn't pay for anything like Angie's List or any of that stuff. They call it Angie's now, I think. I don't think it's even called Angie's List. But I did try some of that stuff, and it was kind of a flop for me. So we're gonna talk more about that. But Joe, let's introduce Joe. Joe Bovy, he started about 2 years ago. He's and I'll let him introduce himself. I'm gonna have him share a little bit. I'll pop his business link in the description. Joe, go ahead and give yourself a short introduction.
Yeah. Hello, my name's Joe Bovy. I've been in the mentorship for over 2 years, coming up on 3 this November. And yeah, so I tune pianos up in Idaho and Washington and Montana, kind of that whole kind of radius out there. And yeah, I mean, this is uh, this is an important thing to really do to get clients, to really grow your business, is to really, listen to what we're going to sell you and show you. And but yeah, I'm excited to be here and share.
So, Joe, you started your business. You launched your website. I put the link there in the description. When was it that you got your first? When was your first like tuning, and how quick was it? Was there a little slow start? Did you feel a little bit, or were you just? I know you're ramped up now, and we're gonna talk about your ramp up. But that early couple months, what was that like?
Oh yeah, my first few months it was pretty slow. You know, um, I'd probably get like a couple tunings a month usually, just starting out the gate. And I had a little website set up. It was more of like a Square appointment setup thing, you know. So it wasn't really a website. It was more of just like you click the link and you can set up your appointment time and all that. And then once I kind of figured out that that wasn't really working, I actually built a website and had one of my really good friends help me design it and do most of the legwork on it actually. And after that, things picked up a little bit, but it wasn't actually until after a year of just like grinding and hustling to be able to get to a point to where I'm actually starting to pick up business regularly. So yeah, it's a slow start, and I think like everything, usually it is pretty much a slow start, but you just have to keep pushing, and you can't just look at one thing like your website and think, oh, well, I got my website up. Now I'm just gonna keep. They're just gonna start flooding in. That's not really how it works. You gotta just get out there, get your name out there. It takes effort. So
Yeah, so let's jump forward to about the 2 year mark and talk about your last couple months, because I've said some of this in my webinars, but you've sent me quite a few texts like, hey, I sold a regulation, hey, I sold a action rebuild, and I lost track of the numbers. I mean, the numbers were going up. It was at 12,000, and then it went to 20, and so tell me like the last couple months. And this is I'll have Joe share this. I know we're not all going to be there, and these are exceptional results. And a lot of hard work, and we're going to talk about how he got there. But I want you to hear what's going on. So what's going on the last couple months?
yeah, and I just want to preface this as well as I don't take this type of success as the baseline template of, you get in and you're a year or two in and you're like, oh man, I should be making this much money because he was, you know. Every person's different. I live in a completely different uh, economical state. If you're, you know, out in the big city, you could probably rack in more if you really work, or if you live out very rurally, then it's going to be probably a little bit less. So, pretty much in the last couple of months, I had sold uh, 2 complete action rebuilds um, and a regulation, or actually, no, 2 regulations, one on an upright, one on a grand, and and did about just over 5,000 in tuning appointments alone. So the grand total comes out to about 25,000 and some change.
Okay,
So
that was in the last 2 months, in about two
yeah,
months here.
yeah.
So what you did about 5,000 in tuning in just this last month, or just in the whole 2 months?
In last month,
In the last month.
in May.
Okay. So yeah, let's show this out. So I just typed this so you can see it. 2 action rebuilds, 2 regulations, about 5,000 in tuning. And so your action rebuilds were in the six and $8,000 range, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
your regulations, what are you charging regular? About 1,500 ish, 15 to 2,000.
Yeah. So the last one, so the upright regulation that I did, I charged about 1450, and I actually overbid that because I usually charge a little bit less for the uprights because it's not as much, work in terms of the steps that you do.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but I did a little bit of extra work. I filed the hammers for them and did some spacing and everything. But typically that's around like a $900 job. Um, but I bid it high because I was so busy trying to get
yeah,
these other jobs done. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna bid this high, and I'm gonna see if they take it. And if they don't, I'm not gonna sweat about it. And if they do, all right, well, I'll have some more work to do. So
yeah.
I bid it, and then they just took it, and I was like, all right, great. So I wasn't even really trying, but you know,
Yeah, it can get like that. It's weird. So, and this is in your business. Is this a little bit? This is, I mean, selling two action rebuilds back to back. That's good. I remember when I was selling an action rebuild for 6 or 8 thousand, I would be like, cha-ching, and I would. That was a good month or a good 2 months, really, because I could rebuild that action while I was still tuning and I was building that. So the bread and butter of our business is really tuning, right? But
yeah.
when you get these um, regulations, cleanings, I'm going to talk about all that in this. And actually, at the end of this thing for you guys in the mentorship, you'll be able to download a checklist of everything I'm talking about because we're going to go through a whole bunch of stuff. So Joe got to that point now where that's a big couple months, and it probably just snowball from there because now he's busy with these action rebuilds, and then he's like still tuning. It doesn't stop, but he's also 2 years in. Okay, so 2 years in. That first year, I know I talked about this in my webinars. That first year, I was like, I just want one tuning a day. So I was looking for about 5 tunings a week. And then when I achieved that, I was like, okay, this is pretty good. I was doubling my business every year. So that second year, I was like, okay, I realized, well, I'm doing some solid work. I'm getting 5 tunings a week, but I could do more because I'm done by like 10 or 11 in the afternoon or in the morning.
Hmm. Hmm. I don't know what just happened. Let's see.
Ah, I'm back.
Oh, we're back.
How did that happen? That was weird.
Guys.
I'm getting you back over on that side.
Yeah, no, it just you just froze for a second. I was like, oh.
Yeah, that's weird because you were froze on my end and I was froze on your end, and I looked online and then it was like just weird because you were there by yourself and I was frozen. Um,
Yeah, I was like, oh, all right.
all right, so let's go over a quick overview of the business launch framework, and this is sort of what you do in the mentorship. But I want to make sure you guys really listen to this, and I'm going to print out a PDF so that you can kind of checklist this off because like I said, some of you will launch a website and you'll wait for a month and you'll be like, nothing happened. And some of you will do a bunch of other stuff. And I was just getting some text from Pat. And so this is, for example, what Pat did. And he texted me a couple months ago, and he had told me some things about his business. He had been doing something. Now, he had just got his first tuning, but he says, I have 12 more appointments from word of mouth and from placing cards at high-end antique stores that carry nice older grand pianos. And he says, I might not even have to advertise, at least for the near future. And so he was really excited because he has plus 25 church referrals that I did for free. So he did some free stuff in the beginning, but those kind of turned into some tunings. But he was passing out his cards at antique stores, which is kind of a niche, weird niche, but it's definitely working for him.
Yeah.
So you can't just do one thing, but you will in the beginning. You have to do this specific thing. You have to launch your website. First of all, you have to research your competition. You're going through Catalyst. You're going to research your competition, find out what pricing you need to do. You're going to look at Joe's website, my website, talk to me in Bolster, figure out what should I charge. Get that set in stone. Then you want to research, the area that you're going to launch your thing in. You're going to write a bio, and you're going to position yourself as the expert in your area, and you're going to launch your website. And, launching a website doesn't have to take forever. Some of you guys are hiring web designers. Some, like Joe, I think, hired a web designer. Some of you guys are going on WordPress. Some of you guys, one of my students is doing like he's hired an actual, I think he's a web designer, and he's actually coding his whole website. He's not using Squarespace. So really just get a basic website. All my websites crashed a year ago. And I mean, literally crashed. All my Apex, Nashville, and the Dayton site all went down. I had to rebuild them in a weekend, in a hospital hotel room. My brother was sick, so I launched the new sites that I have over in one night. On Squarespace. I used AI, and of course I had some content from my other sites there was one site that didn't break, so I took that content, kind of used it to create my sites. But it doesn't have to be. Take you forever. I launched my Squarespace site in one night. In other words, you could probably go launch your website tonight. Maybe if you stayed up till midnight, you could probably have a site launched. At least one that's probably not as good as Joe's or mine, but it would be basically an about page, a pricing page, a book me page, that kind of stuff. Real simple 3 pages. That's all you need. Mm-hmm. And then your website can always be built onto it, can be growing. I don't know, Joe, you're not tweaking your website that much probably, but I'm always tweaking my website. Every time I change my prices, every time I come up with a better idea, every time I figure out something's not working, I do different things. So you can do that. So launch your website, build a Google Places thing so that when people type your name in, they can find you. You should do that, and you should start a small Google ad. If you have $100 a month or even $50 a month, you go in and start a Google Smart ad, and it's not going to change the whole world. It's not going to blow your phone up with bookings probably that month. So you can't go into Google and spend $500 on month one. You just really shouldn't do that. Unless you just have a trash load of money sitting around and you're like, hey, I'll try this. But when you're first starting, you got to do more than just throw a big ad spend out. You want to sort of, in my experience, throw a small ad spend out and let it kind of grow. Okay, and so right now, you don't have to be spending more than $300 a month probably on your Google ad. But if that sounds overwhelming, that's fine. Spend 50, spend 25. At least get the infrastructure up before you do anything else. Website, competition, prices, get it built up, start your Google page, and then start running a $20 a month ad. Just something that's the infrastructure is in place. The other thing that some of you guys are not doing is you're not getting Gazelle and you're not using online booking. So maybe you're just saying, well, I'll just have people book me through Squarespace because they have a booking thing, or I'll just have somebody book me through calling me or texting me. This is fine, but 90% of my bookings come from Gazelle online book now button. So where I'm teaching you clear call to action, some of you guys' websites say, call me and call this number or whatever, and that's fine. But Joe, do you use Gazelle? You don't have to give me like a set number, but how much do you guess of your bookings are through Gazelle compared to like through phone calls and text?
Probably about a third.
Like 1/3?
Yeah, probably 1/3.
Okay, so
I get emails, and I get some emails, but most of them are people calling me.
Calling your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. Almost all our bookings are through Gazelle, probably. And I don't answer my phones when we have a setup, so Barb answers our phones and stuff. So I could be a little bit off. It could be like 50%, but most people I see just bookings coming in all the time. Even the phone call says, "Hey, leave us a message, but book online." So we've kind
Yeah.
of pushed them to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have the time to answer the phone all the time, and that as you grow, that will happen where you have to come up with a system for getting your phones answered or having somebody else answer them for you. You'll know when it's time because you'll be losing business. You'll hear people say, "Well, I called 3 times and you never called me back," or your phone will ring a bunch and then you won't have time to get home and call them back. When you call them back 3 days later, they say, "I already found somebody else." You'll know you're losing business when you're too busy to get to it. Have you noticed any of that yet, Joe? Just
Yeah, there's been a few times where I've lost some people because, they called me and then I was just in the grind, and typically they're older people, so they don't really like going on the website and doing the online booking thing. But yeah, I have lost a few to not being able to answer my phone. Uh, it happens.
yeah,
Um,
that always in the early days it always makes me so like anxious. I would say angry, but I don't get angry, but like dang it. You call them back, "Oh, I called somebody else." It's like it's only been like, it was only yesterday. So some
mhm.
people when they're ready to book, they're going to call around until somebody answers the phone. And so if you know that that's happening a lot, you can start thinking about ways to get your wife, your friend, hire somebody just to answer your phone or to return phone calls. We don't even really answer our phones. We have like an immediate, if you leave us a message or call, we get my assistant, like Barb, she'll get right back to you. It's usually that day within an hour or two, maybe even like within 10
Mm.
minutes. She's very fast. So at least if they go, "Hey, I'm looking for piano tuning," boom, we're on it. Where without her, it would have been like 2 days later or like a week or like even the end of the month. I'm like, "Oh, I didn't call these people back." And then I feel bad. So you'll know when it gets to the point where you're just too busy to do that. In the beginning, I did everything. I sent all my own postcards, answered all my own phones for a good 5 years. So we're talking way down in there. Go couple year, probably like year 4 or 5, I started realizing. I think I hired a tech before I hired an assistant. I think because I was losing business and I was just too busy to even do all the work that was coming to me. So I was like, that's how I started hiring somebody. So let's talk about that. So let's get into the real stuff. So Joe, you said you want to start diving into selling, how to get work, how to make connections, and I want this to kind of come from your perspective. They've heard a lot about my perspective, and I'll chime in. But so in the first couple months, you know what you have to do: get your infrastructure set up, following the Catalyst marketing course. So you're like literally online. People find you. You're starting to get in the algorithm. You're starting to run your ad. All this stuff makes a difference, but it doesn't make you 10 tunings a week just off the bat, right? So when you do all that and that baseline is set, and that sounds like a lot of work, but really once you're in the program, you can do that like over a few weeks. It shouldn't take you more than a few weeks, especially because now you get templates you can copy from Joe, from me, from a lot of the other alumni. You can actually just go to their website and kind of copy, and you get sort of a base template that you can use. And you really should use that, because starting from scratch is how do you know if it's going to work? My site's been going for over 18 years. So the way I explain a pitch raise, the way I price myself, the way I'm doing this, it's because it works and it's been working. And it just continually works. So we've tweaked it. In the beginning, I tweaked my site a lot. Now, not as much, because sometimes when it works, you don't want to change it. So, Joe, dive into how to sell and how to get work, how to make connections in that first year. Let's throw out some ideas, or thought your what you did, because I know you did a lot of hustling.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, how to sell? I mean, so I think you and I take the same approach. I do a very soft sell, um, but still giving some urgency to see what the problem is, and you have to be able to articulate and tell and explain the problem that the piano is facing very succinctly and very well, and you need to be able to explain that. Um, and you need to be able to tell them, this is what's going on with the piano. I mean, this piano has problems. You need to, you know, in my case on the two action rebuilds, one of them had the repetition lever springs. They were all just breaking,
Hmm.
all of them, just all over. And I was just like, hey, I think it's time to really just get this thing overhauled, get this thing done, new parts, new everything. That way you don't have to worry about, me calling me every week to come out and fix another spring that's broken, uh, and fix this note because it started not to work, or, let's just get it done and over with, type of a thing, Um, so creating that sense of urgency for the client, but not putting on the pressure like, yeah, you need to do this or your piano is gonna just explode. But really going through a soft sell and being like, yeah, this piano has issues and we can do something about it. And I think that that would be the best course of action. And it's really up to you. And this is about what it'll be. And I kind of just leave it open. And for those two, they bought they bought into it, and I got two big jobs.
Yeah, the first we used the Apex condition report. The first time I handed somebody a condition report, it was for a $900 repair, and I was like thinking that's crazy. Like this is early on, and I was like that's crazy. That would be that's a lot of money, and that's I don't know they're gonna go for this. And they said when do you want to do it? I was like that was it. So part of it is ask for the sale, and Joe's saying the soft sell can be, hey, your piano's got a bunch of springs broken. Hey, look, I can fix this. I can just keep coming back, and $150 every time I come in here. And or you can just do the whole rebuild, and you get a feel for the client. You're talking to the client, but at the end of the day, you're asking for the sale. He probably, okay, so this is what I could do for you, or I can send you a quote. There have been a lot of times where you don't ask for the sale because you're just afraid that they don't want it. That's why I like the condition report, because we ask for the sale every single time. In fact, some one of my techs, he just says every single piano he gets to, he just writes needs regulation and puts the price on the bottom. And everybody will go like, okay, it's fine. But when they start complaining about the way it plays, then you can say, oh yeah, well, remember I told you it needed regulation. This is why it's doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So not every piano needs regulation, but in one of my service areas, it really does. There aren't a lot of techs that do regulation, so they could have their piano tuned every year for 5 years and 10 years, 20 years, and then I come and take over. Maybe their old tech died or something, and then I go, well, this piano hasn't been regulated in 20 years, and I mention it to them, and they're like, well, nobody's ever said that, or Will never told us about this. Our other guy never mentioned it, but I do. I
Mm-hmm.
tell them like, well, see how you can't play pianissimo? See how the hammer's bobbling and making that hitting the string twice? This is how bad some of these pianos are. But no piano tuner ever told them that they could fix it. They would say, well, I just thought that's the way my piano was. I just thought it was old and kind of old. And it's like, no, this piano's out of regulation. And then they're interested in paying the $1,500 to get it back into regulation. So I've asked for the sale. I've explained it. Using the condition report is a no high pressure thing. I'm not a high pressure. I'm like, hey, your piano probably needs this. And I always say, it's not going to explode tomorrow. You can do this today. You can do it next year. You could do it in 5 years, depending on how long you want to play this piano with these bobbly hammers. And they'll go, okay, and you've solved their problem if you want to pay, but you've asked for the sale.
Right. Yeah. No, I think with the grand regulation that I sold, this lady had her piano tuned, not very frequently, but like every couple years, like she'd get, the guy to come out, and it was always the same guy. And then, uh, she moved to where my service area is, and I come out and tune the piano, and kind of explain to her, oh well, we could really make this place so much better, and you see how you can't really control the key. You see how it's just kind of just all over the place. The bushings are all worn down and everything, and and after explaining that, she's like, man, I've had my piano tuned for years and he never explained it. So that what you've said is just verbatim. It's the same. You know, people don't know that, that when they get their pianos tuned, that it needs a lot more work to get it to play right. And that's so much opportunity for you to show them and be like, hey, uh, this is how we can make this better.
Yeah, once you're a full service tech, like you can regulate, you can voice, you can do these things, you're going to get a tuning because everybody's going to think, oh, I have to tune my piano every time I move it. That's a lot of people think that. And so you get the call when they move into town and they'll say, oh, our piano tuner in California never said anything about regulation, but you can clearly explain to them like, well, this is why it's not working. This is why it's playing like this. And like, oh yeah, okay. And then they're pretty much really willing to pay you whatever you say. I mean, I usually, I have set prices, so I don't make up numbers. Part of that is because I will forget. If I tell somebody 1,000 and somebody 2,000, and if I see, oh, this is a big house, I'll say 4,000. Maybe they would pay 4,000. But I've noticed in my business, you might go 2 years later and you'll be talking to the same client. You can't be making up numbers. So we have a price list. It's published on our website, and
Yeah.
you're fair. It's like whatever it is, you're going to put it down, and usually it's written down. But even if it's not, for me, I know what I said. And once you get other techs working with you, you also need to remember what you said, because people will say, well, he said it was this much, and I'll go, no, we would never say that. But if you were just making up numbers, then yeah, you wouldn't know. So
Yeah.
you have a specific higher level of services that you can offer, like regulation, repair, voicing, cleaning, all these things, and that's how you're able to upsell. But you have to ask for the sale. What else, Joe? What do you do in that early stage?
Yeah. So really what started to really pick me up, it was I realized that I'm not the only fish in the sea when it comes to piano tuners. There are other tuners in the area. um, so what I did was I just called them all up and I was like, hey, I'm new to the area, I'm new to this, I'm just starting out, love to meet you, go out for a coffee sometime.
Hmm.
And a lot of those people, they were just like, oh great, yeah, and then that's how I got plugged into the Piano Technicians Guild, or the PTG for short. And I got invited to one of their meetings. And from there, your networking source is, I mean, it's just almost unlimited at that point, especially if you have a big chapter, a big local PTG chapter, because um, there could be as much as over 100 techs in a single chapter, having a big wide radius, and they all convene and for one meeting, you know, uh, either every month or 2 months or so. And that's your opportunity to really just try and be friends with these people, because I know from experience, if you make enemies in any type of industry, then it's just gonna not be good, you know. So really trying to put your best foot forward, to really show them that, like, you're in this, like this is what I'm going to be doing as a career, and I'm really serious about it, and really just trying to be friends with them is really going to make the difference. Man, I have like 4 techs in my local area that will refer me constantly, and I know that because the people that call me, they're like, oh yeah, this person told me to call you.
Hmm.
And I'm like, oh, well, that's very kind of them, I appreciate that. Um, so networking, really making sure you're getting in the door, getting your foot in the door and talking to these people. I mean, yeah, they're your competition, but you really need to just make yourself known. Us as piano tuners and technicians, we all do the same thing. We tune pianos, we fix broken strings, we fix broken hammer flanges and all this other stuff. So having, friends in your local area is a big, tremendous help. And uh, really, that's how I got a lot of my referrals. Was I just made friends with these people, and genuinely wanted to get to know them, and be in their lives. And it wasn't out of like a malicious evil, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna manipulate them to think that I want them. No, I actually wanted to be around them and learn from them. So yeah, make that connection, network with other people.
Yeah. So you have like you have a big. You said how many's in your chapter? About
We have about 12 or
about
so.
12 people. Okay.
Yeah.
And you have about 4 that are very that like you well and that you've kind of become friends with.
Yeah, yeah, that.
I mean, they all
And
like you, but there's several there, 3 or 4 of them that you like these guys are more like allies, and they're referring you. So why are they referring you? Let's break it down a little bit. Why are they referring you? Why would they refer you? Because it depends on the chapter, and we can go into that. But this is a good thing. Why are they referring you, and what kind of work are you getting from them? How are you helping them?
so I what I did was I went to my local Steinway dealer. Not everyone has a Steinway dealer, but most people have a piano dealer.
Mm.
Um, and there's 2 techs at that Steinway dealer. And I was like, hey, I'm really trying to hone my craft. I tune with an ETD, so I know that like I'm like really close to getting something really good. But can you just check out what I'm doing and see like if there's any improvement? Um, and I guess that drive to want to get better, they saw that and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I think I can trust this guy. And even after I tuned for them, they were like, oh wow, this is really good. I mean, when did you start? And I was like, oh, I'm about like a year or so in. And they're like, oh wow, you're you're some upcoming talent then. Great, we need that.
Now, this was the dealership. You went into the Steinway dealer and said, "Check my work. Let me tune a piano
Hmm.
and see what
Yeah,
happens."
to the technicians that worked at that dealer.
Oh, the
Yes.
technicians. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
That's good. That's good. So, this is a great approach, Joe. I mean, Joe didn't learn this in the mentorship because I didn't tell you to do this. I mean, I told you to be nice and stuff. But my experience was different. My PTG chapter wasn't my favorite place to be.
Mhm.
Didn't have like my favorite people in it. But I was introduced to my piano tuner, and I talk about him a lot. Jack, he was my mentor. He was also the president of the Master Piano Technicians of America, and his friend Tim. They both worked at the biggest dealership in our town, and they kind of took me under right away. Jack was the guy who got me into it, and then he introduced me to Tim. So I was like they were my mentors, and I would just go in and work with them and ask them, and they would check my work. So I had these 2 guys that knew a lot, and then I was into digital marketing really heavily, and I was young. I was way young. I was like 30, 32, 34, something like that, probably like as younger like you were, Joe. And I just sort of started out marketing in my area, and I did a lot of YouTube and Google and YouTube videos and all that stuff. So I was able to get work like that. But the PTG chapter, mine was a little bit more competitive and a little bit more, it wasn't like my favorite place, but I had a place. So I think Joe's right. The PTG chapter would be the first place that you would go. You really do kind of you don't need a mentor because you have if you're in the mentorship, you don't need a mentor, but having guys in your local town is definitely, and I've watched it work for Joe. A lot of people come into the mentorship and they immediately think they got to find a mentor. And I think that's not the case. Joe, you were already in this about a year before you started. When did you go to the PTG chapter?
yeah, it was about a year after I started.
So
And
you were kind of well into tuning and developing your skills, and that's what you don't want to
yeah.
go like. Even my mentor, he told me like I'll mentor you, but you need to go take the course, because he had mentored a lot of people from like the ground up, and they'd burned him, they'd quit, and he's like, I'm not doing that. You go learn. I'll tell you everything you need to know. I'm not going to sit next to you and hold your hand, hammer for you. He was a little more standoffish, and I was like, man, But so I took Randy Potter's course, and he made me. He said, I'm not teaching you anything until you go get a course. Get in the course, and then I'll help you. And so a lot of people say, well, I need to get a mentor. I got to have a local mentor. Yeah, you probably need some people to help you out a little bit, but you don't need one to start the journey. And so Joe's a year in, he goes to the PTG, he goes to Steinway. That's a great way to do it, because, some people are just too, you got to be careful. I had a couple bad experiences. Like I had a bad experience with a Steinway dealership. I had a bad experience in my early young PTG meeting. People were kind of, even in their meetings, they were like fighting with each other and stuff. And they were like, they had done stuff. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, one of the other members was like trying to take over the group. I don't know. I was like, you know what? I'm just not gonna get involved. And then so I stayed away from it, but also my mentors stayed away from it. They were telling me, and I think what I've learned more than anything is that it just depends on the city you're in. Because the city I'm in now has a great chapter, and everybody I've met from that chapter is super nice, and they're all like, yeah, they're all excited. And I had a really good friend that he was a part of the chapter. I'm not a part of it, but he was an ally that I met here in Nashville. He passed away, and his wife, we took over his whole entire business. So it does help, because these guys, they'll retire, they'll have tools. For example, one of my mentors is retiring now, and he called me and said, I've got a whole, like, my entire life's of tools. So come over, and so we're going to probably be buying all of his tools and then offering them for our students here. So it's networking is good. So these guys that and these allies that and the Steinway dealership, and so these guys are giving you overflow work, or, hey, we don't want to go drive this far, but Joe will, or, what's that vibe like?
Yeah, essentially it's like that. But also, any work that they don't want to do, or it would just be better for me to go and do it because of, the location, they just send it my way. And these are people that have been here for, upwards of 50 years,
Yeah.
So these people you know, are well known in the community, in the space,
Mm-hmm.
So uh I think the reason why these people actually end up calling me is because they're like, oh yeah, well, my tuner for, the past 20 years is referring me to someone else now, so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
better take it. All right.
Yeah,
So
so this is fantastic. I mean, if you can, when you go into your PTG chapter, if you go, okay, I'm going to do what Joe said, you got to be, as a business, and a lot of the stuff I teach this in the mentorship, you don't go in there, they are your competitors. My mentors were not my competitors. In fact, there was like an unspoken, they worked at a big store. And so even as I was going through my mentorship with them, and when I became a better tuner, I never once solicited that store for work. I was like, that's their store. If they ever need me, they'll let me know. So you just have to be careful with their business, because you don't want to come in like, hey, I know before I moved to Nashville, I called down here. This was like years ago. And one of the tuners called me back and said, well, my best advice is don't come to town and charge, and underbid everybody. Don't come if the standard tuning is $150, don't come to town charging $67 or something, because it just makes everybody, he was kind of giving me that little advice. Well, don't just come here and undercut us all. So when you're going into these meetings, they are your competitors. Some of them should become your friends, and like Joe has created 4 strong allies who are referring him. But if Joe started bad mouthing them and going in and undercutting their work and taking, they would very quickly, that would all end. So Joe has gone in as genuine, with trustworthiness, and he's been real. And even if they wouldn't give him any business, he was still going to be a nice guy and be helpful and be humble. So that's that goes a long way. Some people have a hard time with that. So if you have a hard time being humble, being genuine, don't be trying to be manipulative. If you have a hard time, just work on that before you go into a meeting. You don't have to prove yourself to them. You can be a student, and especially if you're in a mentorship, you are a student. Until you have tuned, for years and built your own business, there's no ego. You don't need. Now that's hard to say, because musicians have a lot of ego. Piano tuners are also strange people in general, so that can be weird going in a mixed group. You just need to be
Yeah.
sort of, don't try to prove too much. Just be genuine. Just act. I would act like I know not very much, and be very
Yep.
open to just learning. And if you can do that, you might find a situation where you are getting a lot of work, because we know that established technicians have more work than they can handle. Period.
Mm-hmm.
If you meet a guy who's been tuning for 25 years in an area, he surely has overflow work.
Yeah.
So that. So just get to know them. Maybe they're you don't want to come off as a jerk, basically. I don't know. So it's easier said than done. It's easier for some people than it is for others. Joe, you must have had a natural ability to just be cool, and like quickly people liked you, and they're like, oh yeah. But you went in very humble. That's going to
Yeah.
be a key.
Yeah. I went into it not trying to get something from them, but I wanted to give them something, my time, a cup of coffee, or, lunch, or just someone to just talk to. Because, a lot, there's a lot of these tuners, they don't, they don't have a lot of people to talk to. They're just
Yeah.
sitting at the piano, and, they get the occasional chat from the client, and then they got to go because they got to tune another piano. So it's, just
Yeah,
being
it could just
nice
be
and genuine.
friendship. You could just be friends with them. I know with my buddy that passed away here, we just were friends. I never tried to get anything from him. He would give me work when he didn't need it, when it was too far away, and he slowly just warmed up to me, and he would just he was just nice. I was just never looking to get from him what I could get from him. I really was just like, well, we'll just be buddies. And we did a couple. I brought him, what's really good? I brought him a couple jobs. He also had a refinishing shop. So I put it out there like, everybody I talk to, I'm going to tell him, you're the refinishing. And he didn't need my marketing because he'd been there 30 years. But when I brought him a
Hmm.
few clients, he was like, oh, wow, great. You brought me a couple. I mean, that's money in his pocket. So if you're able to go, oh, I'm tuning this piano for this school, and your mentor does really good at keys or refinishing, and you refer him a big job. That's always what I was looking to do, is sort of give back to my mentors, or hey, this job's too big for me. I'm gonna tell Jack to do this, and then Jack goes in and he makes $4,000, and he goes, hey, well, thanks, Eric. Next time he has extra work, gives it to me. You got to kind of look for where you can. I was always kind of hoping I could sell Sam another refinishing job, just to show him like, hey, you're giving me some work. I'm gonna try to do the same for you. So it's just that you got to know they're all independent. Most of us are independent technicians trying to make a living. We're trying to make a business. So any good referral, any job that turns into something would be, think how you would feel if somebody passed you a $5,000 rebuild just because it was
Yeah.
closer to you. So
Yeah. No. And I mean, that's kind of how I got my foot in the door on this one big action rebuild per se. Um, was that uh, one of the main people who's really teaching me about rebuilding pianos, rebuilding actions, doing all of this work. Um, I was like, hey, I'll give you a cut, and I'll kind of just watch you do a bunch of the heavier lifting of it, like hanging hammers, boring, all that type of stuff. And I can do everything. I can do everything else. I can push the keys. I can clean them up. I can ease them and clean the keyboard and make it level and space and put new weapons on and all that stuff. And just that act alone, I just got kind of thrusted into this, like, all right, well, now you're my little apprentice now, and I'm gonna teach you everything I know about rebuilding. And I'm like, all right. So
yeah,
that, and I mean that doesn't happen to everybody, but I mean, even just the opportunity to be like, hey, I can give you, I can sell pretty okay. So
yeah,
here's this action rebuild job that I sold to this client. Can you help me out with it? And I can just watch you do a lot of the stuff, and give you a cut for it. And yeah, no, that goes a long way too. Just like you were saying, it was just that opens the door, and it opened the door for me to learn a bunch of stuff. So
Yeah, it's crazy how, you can go through the mentorship. I went through a whole course, but really once you get your hands on pianos and once you're working with some of these older guys who've been doing it, you definitely, I think you need that foundation. But once you get in there, then you're like, oh, I see how they do this, and you learn a lot from these old guys. So try to find those. Let's go on to some basic stuff. Okay, this is well. Do you have anything else? I'll well, let me do this one. Work your contacts. This is similar to Joe, but it's a little bit on mine. I graduated from university in the town that I started my first business in. I had been teaching guitar lessons at all the local music stores. I went to college with a couple girls who had started private music lesson studios in that town. So when I started tuning, I was already in the groove with these people. So when I started tuning, one of the ladies owned a pretty big store, and I just said, hey, I'm tuning. And her brother was the tuner there, but he had passed away, or he was in the hospital, I think, in a nursing home. So she was like, oh, well, you can tune our piano. So that was a music store that had like hundreds or a couple 500 students. They started passing out my business card, and then one of the girls I went to college with opened her own music studio, and I was immediately like, hey, I was giving these people super big discounts, to get my foot in the door. Like, hey, if you'll refer me, I'll give you like discounts, and I'm talking like 40-50% off my street rate or whatever my normal rate was. And I was just like basically doing sometimes even free work because they were passing out my name to everybody. So part of this has to do with contacts. Joe, you went out and just went to the PTG meeting and made contacts, and you can do that. I had some pretty strong built-in contacts, but I immediately started leveraging those contacts, and
Right.
then getting into some the dealership. One of the dealerships was already tied up, so one of my mentors already worked there, and that was kind of off limits for me. But there was another big dealership in that town that was a competing dealership, and I went to that dealership, and it took me, I think, 3 years, because they were a big store and they had a lot of techs working there. But it took me 3 years to get to work at that store. But finally, we had signed an exclusive deal with them. So, and I think we're still in there as like their exclusive tech team. So we get a lot of work from them. But it took 3 years. I mean, I kept going in, giving cards, talking to the owner. He would forget my name. It was that bad. It was like he was older and he would just forget my name. He didn't. But after a while, it was like, hey, we're in a pickle. Could you come do this? And I went and did it. And from then on, that's how I ended up tuning for like Harry Connick Jr. and some of these big names. But so it took years to get into that store. But I was still working contacts and proving myself, at all the other, I was in all these music stores, and I was tying up as many as I could with, like exclusive deals. Like, hey, if you'll pass out my business cards, I'll give you this rate. Sort of like you give me a little bit, I'll give you this. Look, and then as I started growing, like statistics matter. So as my website started getting a lot of hits, I would use that with the stores. Hey, I'm getting 1,000 hits a month on my website. If you'll let me be your tuner, I'll actually put an advertisement on the front page. So you can come up with all kinds of ways that you can help them. They realize like, oh, this piano tuner. The other thing about piano stores is they need piano tuners, and not just to tune their pianos, but they want people to buy new pianos. So if you're bringing in clients and saying, and they're selling pianos, and then they're like, well, hey, that piano tuner brings in 2 clients a month. We sold a piano every month because he's bringing clients in. So you have to start showing your worth to some of these I'm talking about larger accounts. These are big stores, big like Steinway dealerships or dealerships that sell used. You got to work those contacts. And everybody's going to be different, but you got to come up with, why am I valuable to them? Check your stats. Maybe you've run your Google ad for a year. Maybe you're getting 1,000 hits a month. Maybe you should mention that to the store owner. Hey, Bovy Piano Tuning is getting 1,000 hits a month for piano tuning, and I would love to just, put your logo up there and say that I'm an exclusive tuner for your shop. Wouldn't that be great? It's figure out how you can help people, and obviously expect that they'll reciprocate that in some way, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
So
yeah.
that's some of my contacts, how I work to them, and how, at least in my one market, I've been quite lazy in the Nashville market over here, but in the Dayton market, we tied it all up but I was working all the time.
Yeah. No, I did something similar. I mean, I just went to all the stores, all the studios, all the schools, and just handed out my cards to them, like letting them know I am available, like I can if you need something in a pinch, I know you guys already probably have someone, but if you're in a pinch, here's my card. It doesn't hurt to just leave a card. It's just a piece of paper.
Yeah, and that
So,
is true because a lot of times you go in a place in the beginning it's discouraging. You go in and you go, "Hey, I'm a pianist," and they're like, "Yeah, we already have Bob and Fred over here doing this." Okay, and you leave thinking like, "Crap," they've already got
yeah.
somebody. But I will tell you from experience, just go in there, leave your card, and then the next about 3 months later, go in and do it again. And about 3 months later, do it again and send them an email with the same, "Hey, if you ever need anything," they will call you because I'm telling people don't work that hard. And the piano tuners that are there, all they really have to do is make like one mistake or be on vacation for 1 week. And then that store's like, "Well, wait a minute, we got a broken hammer right now. We have a recital. Hey, that Joe guy, he kept coming in. Call that number. You got his card. Call Joe." And then you go do the job. You do a good job, and probably they'll call you back. So it feels
Hmm.
kind of crap when they go, "Yeah, we already have somebody," and you just keep
Yeah.
going in. "Hey, hey, no problem. I know you already used somebody, but hey, if you ever need me," like Joe said, that's it. From experience, almost everybody I ever did that with, I got work from
Yeah.
because you have to always remember when you're new, that the tuners that are really killing it already, they're gonna get too busy. If they're really good, they're already busy. And then when they call that person, they say, "Well, look, I'm already doing 5 tunings today. I don't have time." And they say, "We need 3 tunings for the weekend." You're gonna be the guy. I mean, didn't you call me, Joe? You told me. Let's talk about that. You had like 21 tunings in a week or a weekend, right?
Oh, yes. Oh man, that was fun.
So what? Yeah, 21. But that was because how did you get
so,
that job?
so it was the Washington Music Educators Association. They had a conference in Spokane, Washington, uh, and typically they just contact whoever's in the, you know, like whoever's the lead president of the PTG chapter, and they just kind of contact them and be like, "Oh, who can do these tunings for us?" They usually give. In the past, I've talked with the presidents before. I talked with them, and I was like, they're like, "Oh, they usually give you about a week or two notice when they're you know coming to town and gonna need these pianos tuned." But they called me the night before,
Yeah.
and so they're like, "Oh yeah, we are you available to tune 21 pianos this weekend?" And I'm like, um, yes, I am. And I just made that decision. I was just like, all right, I guess I'm just not having a weekend. I'm just gonna go and do this. And it was a need, and I know that if I didn't take it, then someone else would have. And and I mean, they called me, or they
Yeah.
emailed me actually, but they reached out to me first, and that was again just because the president at the time, uh, he's a good friend of mine, and he's been giving me referrals a lot, so he figured that would help me out a lot, and it did, and so
Yeah, I remember that, and that's a good chunk of money in 20. How did it feel to do? I don't think we ever talked about that. How'd your back feel after 21 tunings in
uh
three
my
days? Or
my back was actually fine. It was my arm.
yeah,
My arm was sore, and for some reason my legs were sore. Oh, because I had to walk around this big convention building. I had to just walk room to
oh yeah,
room.
room to
Some
room.
pianos, and some pianos were on a schedule. They had to be tuned at this time because of a class that was going to happen, or a performance that was going to happen. It was like, all right, this piano needs to be tuned at this time. So I would get done with one and I'd be like, oh yeah, I got to tune that one. So I'd have run across the convention center and get to get to the performance hall and tune the D in there, and then go and tune a different piano on the other side of the campus. So it was quite the experience. Uh,
So yeah, that's again, you got that from your contacts. Huge. That's a huge job.
mhm.
What what else? What's been your other, like, any bread and butter, anything else bread and butter that you've done in these 2 years in that early stage that you thought, yeah, that worked? Because your networking obviously worked, and it's been getting you really down the road. What else? Did anything else stick out to you?
Yeah. So in the beginning, at about a year ago, I think it was a good friend of mine, TJ. He introduced this Facebook type of marketing to me, where you would go into different uh, community groups, like your local community groups. I mean, you can just search up whatever your local community is, your town or whatever, and see if there's groups. Um, and you can, it's not, I mean, unless it's against the rules to advertise or put a post advertising your business, you can just advertise your business and be like, hey, I am a piano tuner in the area, and I have an opening on this day, looking to fill up my day. Reach out to me. Here's my number or my email, or go and click this link to schedule an appointment. And that worked wonders. I got like, I think that week I made, or the first few days that I did that, I walked away with a couple $1,000 days, and I was just like, all right, you're the man.
Wow.
And then, so from doing that, and then something that I haven't tried yet, but I've heard other people do, one particularly in the mentorship, and then another, my friend actually has a friend that has tried this, but actually doing Facebook meta ads, like advertising on Facebook,
Okay.
um, using that platform. I was talking to one of my friends. He was like, "Yeah, dude, my buddy, he racked in 10K this month just from the ads alone." And
As a
it
piano tuner?
no, it was something
Okay,
completely
gotcha, gotcha.
different. But he was like, "Dude, if you do that, you're probably gonna make a lot of money." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll probably explore that." I haven't yet, but
Yeah. For sure. I mean, for sure, Facebook. So TJ's method was brilliant. He was like, hey, I'm going to be in this area. He was doing rural. So, and I know some of you guys are in rural areas. Like, you're like, there's nobody up here with any money, and I'm out in rural so and so. And so you just go, you find those little areas where there's like 4,000 members of this little Facebook group in rural. He was in wherever he was. So he'd say, hey, I'm going to be in this city, next Wednesday, and if you can get a couple tunings, I'll give you a discount. And he was just being very friendly, and he was
Mhm.
doing 600, 1,000, 2,000. I mean, he was doing days where he would go and do $1,000 days almost every day doing that, because
Yeah,
he'd get 5 or 6 tunings, and then he'd sell a repair, he'd sell an upsell. He's killing it. He was killing it. He was
yeah.
able to pull in, like, he was the one that we did TJ's interview. He did 50,000 in his first year, almost all through Facebook. I think that was his biggest marketing aha. Now,
Mhm.
funny enough, I don't do Facebook marketing, and I know one of our students, I know Karina, runs Facebook ads, and
Right.
so you should talk to her. Maybe she can say what she's doing. I don't think it's blowing her up to do ads, but I see her ad. Facebook marketing, when you start doing paid ads, is just a whole nother world. They just be careful. Same with Google. Start out with $50 a month or $50 a week, and then see, does it work? Because when you do figure out it works, when you get the right picture, when you get the right targeting, make sure you're not running your ads on Facebook to somebody in 3 states away. You're it's
Mhm.
like with Google. I'm in like a 20-mile radius. So if I spend $300, I'm only spending that in that little radius, and that's why I get such good return. Same with Facebook. If you're running just Facebook ads to anybody in my city, and it can get that dialed down. Um, I don't do it personally. I just because I haven't even done TJ's free version because I don't like Facebook. I don't like messaging people, and it's sort of like, I think it goes back to the fact that my Google ads work so well, and I've got the system working that I don't have to do anything, and so I haven't like
Yeah.
explored multiples, but
Mhm.
Facebook ads would work if you just be careful with your spend, because you can spend a lot of money and to go like, because I've done this, I run Facebook ads for webinars, for other stuff. And sometimes you're like, well, I spent $500 and I got nothing, because you have to make sure it works. So start slow, start small. But I think anything you can do, if you can do $50 Facebook ad a month and just be showing yourself to those people, But
Hmm.
if I was going to do Facebook, I would stick with the free stuff in the beginning,
Oh yeah.
because you're saying you're doing $1,000 a day and you're paying $0. Um,
Yeah, it just
that
takes effort to post that you're going
yeah,
to be in the area. And
yeah,
I would schedule out, like, because I did have a few regular clients out way out in the weeds, just out in the middle
yeah,
of nowhere. And I was like, oh yeah. After I was like, oh dude, that would be perfect for this. So then uh, I tried it. I was like, I'm gonna be here in this city on this day. I'm looking to fill up a couple more spots in my day to tune some pianos. Um, Reach out to me. This is my number. If you need your piano tuned, something like that. You can make it more eloquent than what I just said, but
right, right,
obviously you just, it takes effort. And I think, kind of to segue maybe a little bit, but to just kind of wrap this all into one big idea is that, um, I would hope that if you're in this mentorship, that your goal is to be a full-time technician. If not, that's okay. But to have the goal of being full-time, making this your livelihood is the goal that you guys have. And I would say that, if you want this to be your livelihood, it's gonna take effort. It's gonna take effort. And we live in a society nowadays to where everything's just instant gratification. We got to have it now. You know, we buy something online and it comes the next day, or we want to watch a show. You know, we don't have to wait until it comes up on the
yeah,
on the scheduled programming. We can just go on Netflix or Disney and we can just watch it. You know, so we've gotten conditioned a little bit to, you know, get everything now. And I think just there are still some truths in life that you just got to put in a little bit of effort to to make something work and to grow something. It's not just going to happen overnight. The piano's not going to tune itself,
right, right.
So um, that would be my encouragement. And to just, for all of you guys out there that are struggling, you're in your first few months of business and you're not seeing a return, I would say put in just a little bit more effort. And even if you think that you are, maybe try and think outside the box of things that you can try to really ramp yourself up. The first year is going to be tough, the first couple years even are probably going to be tough depending on where you live. And you know uh, TJ is kind of a golden example of, uh, you start your first year and you make 50 grand. That's pretty good, you
Yeah,
know.
that's way better than I did
Um,
my first year.
so I mean, it just takes a little bit of effort. I mean, all of the things that we've said today, I mean, are great avenues of travel to try and get some more business if you're struggling. Um, and I guarantee it, and Eric does too, I'm sure, that if you do these things, that it's really going to help propel you forward and get more clients and get more business uh, and get to that and reach that goal of being a full-time technician.
Yeah, one thing that some of my students and in the mentorship, some of you guys are doing like, hey, have you guys done car magnets? So I'm going to run through a few of these. You can put car magnets on your car, and I had those on my car
Yeah.
all my first 5 years. I don't do it anymore, but I used to do it a lot, and I would get people calling me all the time. Hey, I'm behind you. How much for a piano tuning? So I would get stopped at Lowe's. I'd be walking to my car. Hey, oh, you tune pianos? Do you have a card? So car magnets are like $50, and I'd say they're probably better than any Facebook ad. I mean, they're going to return all. I used to get them on Vistaprint. You get the templates when you're in the mentorship. Just ask me. You gotta
Mm-hmm.
don't do some. You can't do a dumb design, but you got to do a big design, like piano tuning number. So there's some stuff you got to do right, but car magnets are one. Just hustling, because somebody texted me like they were frustrated and like, I'm gonna quit, this isn't working. I'm like, that's not the greatest idea. I wouldn't quit until you've tried every single thing. Do you have a
Yeah.
car magnet on your car? Do you have online booking? Do you have Have you called every single person you've ever tuned for and asked them to do again? We're not going to talk about repeats, but like anything you can do to get more money. Second of all, if you can upsell. So Joe, in the last, I'm going to say we got to end this by 10 more minutes, but there's something I've been thinking about for a while and I wanted to ask you about it. So I'm going to ask you, we'll leave this as our last thing. When I go to your website, and I'm going to share my screen here real quick. I've never shared my screen when I have been doing a window. Let's see. Chrome tab, Bovy. Let's see if I can share this Chrome tab.
Aha. There it is.
Okay, yeah, there's your website, right? Okay, good. Let's see if we can put it over here. There. Okay, that's even better.
Oh, wonderful.
Now let's imagine, Joe, that you are. I looked at your website and I was like, okay, I go to services, and you have some tuning on here. It's fine. You're tuning an hour, repairs 100 an hour. The way you can really start making a lot more money as a tech is by doing higher end services like voicing, regulation, starting at $775, and then cleaning is an easy one. And you had on here before, Joe, don't you have something like gold package, silver package?
Oh yeah, it's on the main page. Just go down.
Yeah, front page. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about this, and I think I already texted you. So you have one-time tuning, 170. You have a silver package, so it's 2 tunings, includes light cleaning, minor repairs, and then you had some more, right? A gold package, give your panel of. So he's created some. This is asking for the sale. And it's funny because platinum tuning package, our premier package, everything gold plus has built-in 2 appointments. So just real quick for me, is this platinum like a regulation and a tuning? And
it's so pretty much what it is. It's kind of a discounted regulation bundle.
Okay, sure.
To just really kind of do the quick sell. That's kind of the idea of it. And to just have, something that's just really front and center, without having to go through all of the jargon of, have your hammers letting off in 1/8 of an inch, and this isn't happening.
It's very hard to explain that to somebody, right? When you're trying to explain it, sometimes when you just offer this package, they go, "Well, yeah, I'm going to do that," right?
And the biggest hit is the silver.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. What's the big one? Because I don't like it typically. So the silver one is the biggest one. So 330. Our silver tuning includes 2 tunings. So is this for you do why do you do this? 2 appointments. What do you do in those 2 appointments?
So it's just pretty much what it is that it's just the standard 6-month tuning. And I just kind of go through a basic service call. I get there, I wipe down the piano a little bit, I tune it, and then anything that kind of sticks out to me, I'll just do it. And I really feel like I'm giving them a real bang for their buck at that point. I really recommend it.
So this is like a 6-month thing. So you do one and then you come back 6 months later, but they pay you up front, that first tuning. They pay so you just reschedule them right away. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So, and then technically the next tuning is like $10 cheaper. Okay. So it's like, 170 is my price. Times that by 2 is 340. So 330 is, you're getting one for 160.
Okay, good.
So,
I'll tell you. So that was the biggest one is your silver, and then has anybody called you and said, "Hey, I need the platinum"?
I have not gotten any bites on the platinum. I have gotten a bite on the gold though.
Okay, so but you've sold regulations, but in terms of the online flow, it hasn't been booked online. I will tell you. So our biggest selling package, and I'll go through this in the gold. That's okay. You don't get bites because what you do is you offer this stuff, and they'll be like, "Well, I don't need that, but I probably do need the gold. I'll save it." And so you're still selling. You're selling in levels, and that's good. This is what let's see. When I go to, I'm just curious now. I just want to make sure. This is when you go to book now, will it give them the option to pick the gold, silver?
Yes.
Okay. So
it will.
Up. Okay, perfect. That's all I want to know. On my website, I'm not sure how it's marked, but When you go to services, let's see, when you go to piano tuning cost, it's not even on this page here, but when you go to book a tuning, let's try to book, because I'm going to show you what our biggest upsell is, and it's one that makes a lot of money. 115 Main Street. Let's see if we can do this. Dayton, Ohio. I'm going to try to act like I'm in Dayton. I guess it wouldn't matter. So when you get into this section, it'll say standard 6-month, add a repair, and then this standard tuning cleaning bundle is $595. That we book that all the time. So we basically just we bundle up a tuning plus a deep cleaning, and everybody books. It's $600. So, and it gets booked a lot because they go, well, we just got the piano on Craigslist. We know it needs whatever. So if you offer, this is what I see people in the mentorship not doing. Not offering enough upsell up front, so nobody will buy it because you didn't offer it to them. So if I was saying anybody, even you guys that are very new, if you can learn to tune, if you can learn to clean as soon as you can, and you have the master cleaning class, it's not hard, and you can add a standard tuning cleaning bundle that's like at least twice or maybe 3 times your standard tuning. So if your tuning's 150, then your bundle would be 450. Mm-hmm. So you're going to tune and clean, and you will sell it. That's what I'm saying. This is a massive income boost, because if you go into a tuning and make 175, and then sometimes my Dayton tech will do 2 cleanings in a day. That's like $1,100 a day, and it's really just not that much harder than a cleaning. So if he gets 2 or 3 cleanings in a week plus his standard tuning, that's how he's hitting $2-3 grand a week. It's not from just standard tunings. Then I have a couple other services that I've been messing around with. One's called a Master Tech. It includes a pitch raise. It includes some regulation touch up, and we have sold that one as well. It's $425. So it's a little bit more similar to your gold or your silver package. Maybe it's a little bit of regulation. But it's just the way that it's marketed. So what I'm doing is I'm stacking up sort of what Joe's doing, the same thing. But what I have noticed is, like, he's saying, like, your $300 bundle is selling really good, $330. If you added a tuning cleaning bundle that was $595, it'd probably sell a lot. Or $550, something like that.
I have actually been meaning to edit my webpage and my Gazelle service list for a while, and I just haven't gotten around to it. And I'm like, oh man.
Let's see. Can I book you if I live in Spring Hill? Okay, this is yours. Let's see. Tuning, piano, concert tuning, silver package, gold package. Okay, yeah. So this is good. They line up, and then you have some other stuff. Light cleaning, mouse removal. The prices aren't listed here, so do they just know what prices?
I think those are based on an hourly rate.
Oh, gotcha. Sure. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay, so as long as it's clear, like, I've struggled back and forth with adding prices on this page or not, because I also have 2 service areas. So when our prices are not the same, it's hard to do that. But I found that having the price, if you're going to try to upsell during the booking, the funny thing is our tuning cleaning bundle is not really listed on our website, but once they get here, it's right there. It's like, it's like, oh, well, I'll do that one. So, and we're not really trying to sell it so hard, but we will book a couple of those a week, and it's just so much extra money when you do that. So this is good. I'm glad I talked to you about that, because I liked your this wasn't actually in like my template, and I never offered like one. I never offered like silver, gold, platinum. So where did you get that idea? I'm just curious.
Steinway.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you go on text to it, if you try and book a Steinway tuner, like go on the Steinway website and try and book a tuning from Steinway. Sure. That is like almost verbatim what it's like. They got the standard tune, silver, gold, platinum, and I think they do something else too. Yeah. But that's where I got that idea from.
Somewhere before I saw yours, I saw that on somebody's website, some years ago. So when I saw it on yours, I was like, okay, so he pretty much, I didn't know where I saw it. I can't remember. But I knew that it wasn't like I know it's somewhat yours, but I know you didn't just like come up with that in your head and do it. So you had a model that you followed that you knew this probably will work, and it's a good way to do it. You found something that and I like that idea. I like to find something that works and copy it. Maybe make it mine a little bit. I'm sure you tweaked it a little bit, changed the pricing, but it looked good, and I think it works. That's why I was kind of interested in this.
Oh yeah.
The platinum tuning.
Yeah, I got no bites on the platinum yet, but I get a bunch of silver packages. That's
surprised
nice.
that you don't. I'm surprised you're not getting the platinum. I think, from my experience, if one of these included a cleaning like the gold, if you did gold and just added here, includes a standard tuning voicing with minor. See this stuff, right? To people like a minor voicing and regulation, they don't know a lot about that, like the general population. So if you made this gold package include a deep cleaning and polishing, and how I kind of word it is like, well, you can see how I word it later, but it's like, we do this. This is what we do to pianos in the showroom to get them ready to sell, so this is great for pianos. If you've never had it done, if there's dust on your soundboard, even explain it right there. They'd be like, you would probably start booking a couple gold packages at least a month, maybe even one a week. So I would, that's what I would, this wasn't the,
well, I've already said that I need to edit a lot of this stuff because I've just, I've come to the realization about a lot of this stuff. So I'm just like, oh, I need to do it. And then I just get busy and I can't.
Yeah. I think if I was doing this, I would raise the price of the platinum just slightly a little bit, but maybe leave this at 700. The price looks good, but if you could book, you would be getting bites on this if it even said gold tuning package plus cleaning, and it was like standard deep cleaning, showroom type cleaning, because the cleaning only takes me. And you can still do the light voicing, light regulation, because you have the action out. You could voice it a little bit, you could regulate it a little bit. But I've noticed with our clientele, they want their pianos clean. They don't know what the other stuff is. So maybe that's why they book it more. Anyway, so that's, let's see. Let me get this screen off here. And it's 8:30, so I know you got kids and you got a life. I think we've covered a lot, but I like what you said a couple minutes ago. You got to hustle. Anytime somebody talks to me, Grant Cardone is somebody I study, and he had a buddy that called him, and this is exactly, he called him. It was like, I don't know, it was like 4:00 in the afternoon, 5:00. And he was like, man, Grant, I'm broke. If I don't sell this, whatever, I'm going to lose my business and everything. And he says, so what are you doing tonight? He said, I'm watching the game. And he was like, dude, you can be watching the game. You got to sell. You got to do something. So sometimes people text me or they ask me, it's not working, or it's oh man, it's like, well, what have you done? And I'll say, have you done this? Or like, not yet. I haven't got this going yet. Or, I'm like, well, like, that's why I really wanted to do this talk, because kind of like, what has worked for you? What did you really do? And sure, a lot of it's in the course, but like hearing it in real world and like hearing nuances, and like you've taken several major steps that I never took. I mean, we both sort of had similar paths. Like we met older guys that helped us. But everybody's paths can be a little different. So we didn't do that much different, but we were there in a little different way.
Yeah.
But if you're just starting out, then my last advice is every single client matters. So if you put a car magnet on your car and you get 2 calls a month, that's 2 clients a month. Now that's 24 a year, and that's a repeat next year. So that one little client is like $175 or $200 every 6 months for 5 years. So in the beginning, though, when you're kind of broke and you're like, man, I only got 3 tunings this week, if you could make one of those a cleaning, and if you could upsell one, repair, it adds up. So it's just the little stuff is going to add up in the beginning until it's like a snowball. And then you do a $25,000, month or 2 months. You're like, man, I made 20. Then you're like, holy moly, this is not something that happened to Joe overnight. A lot of these things he put in play very early on, and then he's realizing some major profit. And the good thing about piano tuning, Joe, this is for you too. Once you get to this level, it doesn't really slow down. it doesn't, you might have ups and downs, you know, some months might seem bigger enough, but it's not like, oh, I was making 25 grand and now I'm making it just keeps going, you know, it just ebbs up, you know, maybe you have a
Yeah.
slow month, maybe you have but you know, once your reputation goes in there and once people get your number, you're just going to, it feels like a runaway train a little bit to me. To me, it started feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't do all this. I can't, my phone's ringing all the time. Everybody wants me here. They want me there. This concert's happening. Starts feeling like that. And that's when you know, okay, I need help. I'm going to hire an assistant. I might hire another tech, and then you can scale your business. But that first, the good thing is once you kind of worked through those 2 years, Joe, and now it's like you're kind of heading up, and now it's not gonna tank down. It's gonna steadily go up, and you know, you can decide at some point what you do and don't want to do. You can give away work. You can make deals, do whatever you need to do. And for you guys that are in your first month or 2 or 3 or 4, just look at Joe and go, yeah, I want to do that. I want to, in a year from now, I want to sell my first regulation, or, you know, this year I'm going to try to sell cleanings. Cleanings are the easiest thing you can upsell. You know, they don't take a ton of technical skill, but people will pay you several $100s to do it. It takes me about 45 minutes to an hour. So that's any last words, Joe?
I think we've covered everything. If there's any questions, we could probably spend a couple minutes answering questions if there are any.
Yeah, are there anybody any questions? Joe, I think we'll do this got broadcasted live. It'll probably be deleted. The replay won't be out there in the world for everybody. It'll go into the mentorship, and then I'm thinking sometime next week we could do just a live stream Zoom hangout. So then we could actually tell people, watch this, and then, you know, this will be us talking with people inside the mentorship, and they can, I don't know, ask questions or pose scenarios. We don't have to schedule a date for that, but that's kind of what I want to do next. If you're able to get in there with me, that'd be great.
Yeah,
Just
I think I should be able to. Yeah.
Yeah, we did a couple Zoom hangouts last quarter, and people liked them. We haven't done any lately, but I think this would be a good one. Especially we can hear. There are some students in the mentorship who have texted me, just other than you, who have been doing really well and really kind of doing some of the marketing and going, yeah, this is working. So it's working out. But then there are other people who are like, man, I'm just like scared, mostly scared. You know, like I'm trying to do. It's not an automatic thing. You just got to take one day at a time, one job at a time, one client at a time, and just kind of build up a momentum. So Joe, I super appreciate you for doing this, for sharing what you've done and giving your insights and letting us look at your website. And
it's been a pleasure.
Yeah. So thank you guys. Thanks for watching. The replay will go on Bolster, and then I'll leave it on YouTube probably for 24 hours, and then it'll go away. And then we'll see you guys next week. If you're in the mentorship and you have questions, you're watching this replay, just comment in the mentorship, because obviously you can talk to Joe and me directly in there. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. I don't have any fancy outplay music, so we're gonna end the stream. Joe, stay on there, Joe, and I'm gonna end this. Let's see what happens.